Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David. Today we've got an interview here with Vasi Kapellos. She interviews one of the biggest liberal boneheads, Steve McKinnon, and she does not hold back. And she finally asks the question, what does the carbon tax actually do? What has it done? What has it done for Canada? What has it done for the greenhouse levels? What has it done for carbon? This is easily one of the most straight to the fact honest interviews a reporter has done.
Steve McKinnon is the government's House Leader. Hi, Minister. Pleasure to have you back here in studio.
It's great to be with you.
I appreciate you making the time. Minister, how are you going to judge and how will your government judge the success of this rebrand?
Well, first of all, we want to make sure that people are aware of the substantial sum of money they're getting in their bank account on the 16th of the month every 3 months, up to $1,800 for a family of four.
Substantial.
So that's very important. They also need to know that 8 out of 10 families are going to be better off under this plan than in terms of the money they would spend on fuel or other things. We want to also make sure that they know that this is going to a fight against climate change. This is a core integral part of the government's plan to reduce GHGs.
Do you essentially believe that changing the name of the rebate is going to accomplish all that you just said?
Let's agree on one thing. No one remembers what the last name was.
Or the couple before that as well, right? This is
the Canada Carbon Rebate is simple, and it's designed so that Canadians understand that A, they're getting more money in their pockets for the most part, and B, they're part of this fight against greenhouse gases and global warming.
And is it your government's hope, though, that it changes attitudes about the policy as a whole? Because if you look at public opinion polling, the public sentiment is not on your side. Only 15%, for example, of those Canadians polled by Angus Reid in November said the tax should continue as planned with the scheduled increase that's coming April 1st. The majority of Canadians want the price on carbon dropped or momentarily for 3 years waived. A majority of Canadians say that right now.
This is a big change. Climate change is a big change, though, Vashi. And what we're happy to do is come on, explain those things. But you know who won't come on this show or any other show and explain his plan? Is Pierre Poilievre. You know, he hasn't been asked the question, what about those families who are going to lose money every month? What about those families who are no longer will participate in the fight against climate change? Okay. He doesn't answer those questions.
I mean, I have interviewed his delegates multiple times on their climate plans. So, he himself has not done an interview, but they have, and I've asked all of those questions. My questions are directed to you and the government. When you say that this will help Canadians appreciate the role they're playing by paying this price on carbon in order to combat the effects of climate change, isn't it not incumbent on your government to actually tell them to what degree this specific policy will reduce emissions? You have not done it. The Auditor General's office pointed that out 3 months ago. It's actually 95% of your climate plan does not have targets attached to it. Why have you not spelled out the degree to which a carbon tax will reduce emissions?
Well, no one doubts, all the experts agree that carbon pricing is a major component of our plan, our targets to reduce climate change and
by how much?
To reduce greenhouse gases. And greenhouse gases are coming down. There was a report issued in December by the Environment Department that shows that we're making great progress in the fight against greenhouse gases.
With all due respect, that same Auditor General's report at the end of November, at the beginning of November rather, said that you were not on track to meet your climate targets at that point.
Yeah, well, the Environment Department begs to differ, and we are on track to reduce by 30% by 2030. So, you know, this is...
The Environment Department begs to differ? Did this guy just hear what he said? She's just going in full steam. So let's just look at some numbers here. So straight from the Parliamentary Budget Officer's website, if we go down to table 2 here, this is the household net cost of fuel, federal fuel charge, etc., etc. So what we're looking at this chart here is anything positive is what someone would be paying extra. Anything negative like this is you would get as a rebate. And you can see here throughout most of this chart you're paying. The only time it's just this first bracket is minus 600, minus 200, minus 400. And then right here, minus 300 and minus 280. These are where you would get money back. All of this is where you would not. And the average is someone's paying, you can see Alberta, 2,700, 1,700, blah, 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 blah. But if you look here, a lot of this doesn't really account for, this is just fuel, right? It's not, if you incorporate costs of food and all this kind of stuff, like the math I did over a month and a half ago, I came out to $7,700, which would lie right in here. There's also a mortgage broker who did the math on this, and he came out to $8,200. This is straight from the government, And yet he denies this, and they keep arguing against these facts. Now, if we look at annual greenhouse gas emissions in Canada from 1990 to 2021, important to remember here. So it had a sharp incline up until 1999, 2000, and it's basically been level. It hasn't really gone, see, it goes up and down, but we're basically sitting right here at 725. Now, I know some liberals would be, oh, there's a sharp decline there. That's the carbon tax. It's like, no, that is COVID. 2019, 2020. That's when everyone wasn't driving. People weren't going to work. That is COVID. That's not carbon tax. Carbon tax does nothing. It just gives the government more money to do scams like the ArriveCan thing and lace their own pockets. That's all it's doing. We look at this page, we've got the calculated per country, the carbon footprint around the world. And what do you know? I keep saying it over and over and over in every video. It's China. It's China. It's United States, rest of the world, India, Japan. Where's Canada? You really got to look. Oh, there it is, Canada, 2%. 2%. It doesn't matter what we do. We could be the worst polluting country in the world, and we still wouldn't even barely move the needle on this entire spectrum. Really, we need to be developing new technology to help China, and we need to be planting a ton of trees. Us, Russia, and Brazil have the largest forested areas on Earth. We need to be planting more trees. Ironically, Brazil has been cutting down all their trees because they had that dimwit Bolsonaro in power for many years there. So if you want to talk about climate change and climate crisis, maybe talk with Bolsonaro and cutting down the Amazon rainforest versus putting Canadians through suffering, huh? No
one doubts that carbon pricing is an important component, whether it be on industrial large emitters or on individual Canadians, is an integral part of our greenhouse gas reduction plan. But Vashi, what we're doing also is compensating Canadians for making the right choices. But regardless of the choices that you make, 8 out of 10 Canadians are better off under this plan.
I want to ask you more about that, because when you say no one doubts the efficacy of carbon pricing or the fact that they are better off, there are a lot of people, in fact, who do doubt that. What about farmers, small business owners, Indigenous leaders in Ontario, some of whom have got together to actually ask the federal court to be exempted from the carbon tax because they say that it leaves their communities worse off than others and breaches the principles of reconciliation? Clearly, there are many people who do not believe that they are better off, and they're willing to go to court to fight you on that.
Well, I believe the Finance Department has special measures for small businesses.
And none of them have been paid out. With respect, Minister, there's $2.5 billion sitting in your coffers that have not been paid
for Indigenous people. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that on Friday passed that announcement or announcements about future plans going forward was made, but we'll follow up on that with you.
Yeah, if Vassy came locked and loaded, she's not playing, man. You can't put anything past her.
But overall, why would those groups have taken you to court if they felt they were better off?
We were elected in 2019 and in 2021 on a platform of having a comprehensive plan to fight greenhouse gases, to reduce greenhouse gases from Canada. You know who else did? The Conservatives. And we're going to have
just about the Conservatives.
We're going to have a carbon price. But if we believed them then, how are we to believe them now?
But I'm pointing to the examples of Indigenous people in this country. For example, in Ontario, a group of chiefs have taken your government to court asking for an exemption from the price on carbon. Small business owners, farmers who asked for a bill that your government then voted against and had the Senate gut. I mean, these are not inherently conservatives. NDP leader Rachel Notley in Alberta is no longer convinced of the effectiveness of a consumer carbon tax. Wab Kinew, the NDP premier of Manitoba, also no longer convinced of the same. The U.S., nobody's accusing them of not having a climate plan.
Because nothing gets through the U.S. Congress, in fairness.
They don't believe that a consumer carbon tax is necessary. Are they all wrong?
Well, and you haven't pointed to all the jurisdictions, whether they be in Europe or elsewhere, who have implemented a price on carbon, who have made that in the heart of their plans to fight greenhouse gases and combat climate change. This is an important program. This is an important program, and it's so important. It's so important that the Conservatives also committed to do it in 2021.
I take your point around that, but my examples that I provided you were not conservative.
How is that a minor point? That in 2 years ago,
It's not a minor point, but I'm here interviewing the government, not the Conservatives. As I've told you, I've challenged them on multiple instances about the lack of a climate plan. I'm not taking away from the argument you're putting forward, but that's not an excuse not to answer questions on behalf of your government.
Well, he won't come explain it here. Instead, he's in these scrums. You saw him this week, punching down at female journalists. You know, how is that okay? How is it okay for Mr. Poilievre to refuse to answer questions about it?
Punching down? Come on, man. Those reporters were absolute mad dogs. They were being rude and insulting to him. They would ask him a question, then they'd interrupt him 6 times.
This climate plan, refuse to answer specific questions about these things.
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying I'm here to ask your government questions right now. And I'll conclude this part of our interview by asking whether or not you would consider pausing the increases on the price on carbon as long as inflation stays above the target of 2%.
8 out of 10 families will continue to benefit.
So no, you won't consider pausing
from the price on carbon.
So you won't consider pausing it?
No.
Okay, Minister, I'll leave it there. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you heard it right there from the buffoon himself, Steve McKinnon. Yeah, and they're not going to do anything, and they're going to keep putting on the carbon tax because it really does nothing but make them rich. It's really refreshing to hear Vasi actually ask those questions. They're like, why don't you guys measure the carbon tax? Why aren't you? Because they know it's BS. That's why. They know it's BS. I can't think of another policy on earth where they would say, hey, we're going to put in seatbelts because we think that's going to make driving safer, and then not measure it. Like, what? That's what they're doing with this carbon tax here. They just keep saying things and hoping it'll be true, but it's not. It's not true. If we look at this chart, which is basically just visualizing that other data in a different way, China is increasing their greenhouse gas emissions. So is Asia, excluding China. You know, if you go to Vietnam and Thailand and all those kind of places, they don't care. They have like no regulations. Their dirt bikes and all that stuff, they absolutely stink. But that's because people are in poverty, they're low income. So like, why isn't Canada stepping up to create new technology to clean the exhaust of their dirt bikes? Like, because they don't care. It's a big scam. That's why. Look at the rest of these countries here. You got Africa, you got India, South America, North America, excluding USA. You got USA, European Union. The trend is all going down. You see this? It went up and now it's starting to slope down. The amount of emissions all of these countries are producing. So basically, you got 2 major offenders at the top here. All these Asian countries, excluding China and China. Like, this is where, if they want to do something, plant some trees or make some new technology. That's where the effort should be. But of course, we have a bunch of thugs in our government. They're trying to convince us of something that we're not buying. We're not buying it because there's simple data and facts here. Where's their charts and their graphs with information that's verified scientifically? They don't have any. That's why. They have none. They have nothing. They're just a bunch of liars. Definitely refreshing to see Vasi once again push back. She's the only reporter with a backbone. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Be sure to subscribe, hit the thumbs up, turn on the bell notifications, all that stuff for more videos coming out here. If you want to check out some other content, I have hiking videos. I'll link up down below. Stay warm, stay fed. I'll see you guys on the next one.